Deep in the shadowed heart of the Congo rainforest, there exists a legend long dismissed by the modern world. It is a place where geography dissolves into mystery, a heart of darkness that has swallowed explorers for centuries. Here, the indigenous tribes whisper of a creature that defies the laws of nature. They call it the Jaba Fofi, the Great Spider. Descriptions are consistent and terrifying. A predator predominantly brown, marked with a distinctive purple hue on its abdomen, with a leg span stretching nearly 6 feet. For generations, it has been widely regarded as folklore, but modern research, satellite anomalies, and terrifying eyewitness accounts suggest that the Jaba Fofi may be horrifyingly real. Rain drummed in torrents against the dense canopy, turning the narrow jungle paths into rivers of mud. Dr. Thomas Avery, an arachnologist from London, struggled for footing. Beside him moved Nkosi, a local Baka guide whose knowledge of this forest was written in his DNA. The Congo rainforest is a living cathedral. Enormous trees soar 60 meters into the gray sky, their massive trunks choked by lianas and vines, forming a dense, suffocating network of green. In this living labyrinth, every snapped twig could signal a harmless duiker grazing in the shadows, or a predator silently observing from above. Dr. Avery would later describe the sensation of being there, noting that one feels small, not just physically, but chronologically. To him, the forest felt ancient, a place that had kept its secrets well for millions of years. Then the beam caught it, a web unlike anything recorded in scientific archives. It spanned nearly 3 meters from tree to tree, glistening like a lattice of diamonds under the intermittent strobe of lightning. Thomas froze. A low, almost imperceptible hum vibrated through the humid air. Stridulation, the sound of a spider rubbing its legs together, but deep and resonant like a cello string. Nkosi leaned in, his voice barely a whisper, warning Avery to step back and under no circumstances touch the silk. From high above, a shadow descended. It was not a bird, nor a monkey. The movement was hydraulic, deliberate. For a split second, the lightning flashed, illuminating a silhouette of staggering proportions. Legs extended like tree branches, a body the size of a human torso. In that moment, legend and reality collided. To understand the terror of what Thomas Avery saw, we must first understand why it shouldn't exist. The rules of arachnid physiology are rigid, dictated by the laws of physics and evolution. Currently, the largest spider known to science is the Goliath bird-eater of the Amazon. It has a leg span of roughly 30 centimeters and weighs under 200 grams. It is a terrifying creature, yes, but it is limited by the square-cube law. Spiders do not have lungs like mammals. They rely on book lungs and passive respiratory systems that struggle to transport oxygen over large volumes. Furthermore, their exoskeleton is heavy. If a spider were to grow to the size of the Jaba Fofi, meters across, conventional science dictates it should crush itself under its own weight or suffocate from a lack of oxygen. And yet, the evidence in the Congo suggests an anomaly, an evolutionary loophole. Dr. Avery theorized that the Jaba Fofi might possess a radically efficient, low-metabolism physiology. Perhaps it has evolved active respiration, a pump system similar to vertebrates, or distinct biochemical reinforcements in its exoskeleton, carbon fiber-like structures found nowhere else in nature. Then there is the silk. A web 3 meters wide requires a tensile strength exponentially higher than steel. Thomas observed the threads bending and recoiling without snapping, absorbing the kinetic energy of massive prey. This is not just biology. This is organic engineering that defies our current materials science.
Dr. Avery was not the first outsider to encounter the Great Spider. The legend has been whispered for centuries. In the 1930s, British explorers traveling near Lake Tele reported accounts from the indigenous tribes regarding giant ground-dwelling spiders that spun webs across game trails. They were told that these creatures were so powerful they could catch small antelope and occasionally reckless humans. Among the Baka and Mubuti peoples, the Jaba Fofi is not merely a monster, it is a guardian. It is described as a patient, silent presence that maintains the balance of the forest. The stories emphasize that the spider is rarely malicious. It is territorial. Nkosi explained it simply. If you disrespect the forest, the guardian wakes, and it does not forget. For decades, Western science dismissed these accounts as cultural myths or stories designed to frighten children away from dangerous parts of the jungle. But in 2009, perceptions began to shift. A British researcher stumbled upon orb-weaving webs of unprecedented scale, up to 2.8 meters in diameter. Dr. Avery and his team began to overlay these historical accounts with modern data. They found a pattern. The sightings weren't random. They were clustered around specific geographic bottlenecks, migration routes for small mammals. The Jaba Fofi wasn't just a monster, it was a strategic hunter. Avery's expedition changed tactics. They moved from passive observation to active tracking. Using high-resolution satellite imagery, they identified subtle clearings near the Chuapa River and canopy gaps around the Sankuru Nature Reserve. Late in the afternoon, as humidity rose over the Ituri Plateau, the thermal scanners picked up something. Dr. Avery recalled staring at the screens, noting that while monkeys move erratically and birds are small and sharp, these signatures were different. They were large, cold-blooded masses that retained heat differently than the surrounding vegetation. And they were moving. The team triangulated the activity zones. The data suggested not just one creature, but a network, a functional population of apex predators operating in the blind spots of human exploration. On the ground, the evidence became visceral. Embedded in the silken lattice of a massive ground web were the remnants of prey, delicate bird bones snapped at precise angles, tufts of fur from a duiker, and feathers partially liquefied by enzymes. Thomas noted the feeding behavior. The Jaba Fofi appeared to consume only the most nutrient-rich, liquefied tissues, leaving the skeletal structure intact, a hallmark of arachnid feeding, but on a scale that made the blood run cold. The breakthrough came on the 14th night. Thomas had deployed motion-sensing cameras along the perimeter of a suspected nesting site. He and Nkosi waited in a blind 50 meters away. The jungle at night is a cacophony of sound, but suddenly, silence fell. A vibration traveled through the ground, not a footstep, but a multi-legged displacement of weight. Nkosi leaned closer to Avery, whispering the confirmation, "It is here." The creature appeared briefly on the monitor. It was a nightmare-made flesh. Its legs, thick as a human forearm, moved with eerie hydraulic precision. The body was low to the ground, covered in coarse bristles that sensed every vibration in the air. It paused. It didn't react like an insect, it reacted like a thinking creature. The spider rotated its cephalothorax, its cluster of eyes reflecting the infrared beam. It was watching the camera. Avery later recounted the chilling realization. One expects instinct, one expects a bug. But when he looked at this creature, he saw calculation. It knew the web had been disturbed. It wasn't fleeing. It was assessing. Thomas snapped photos, but the dense web and the creature's camouflage made framing impossible. Within seconds, it vanished into the undergrowth, leaving only the swaying of huge ferns and the terrified silence of the jungle in its wake.
The expedition captured compelling, if fragmentary, evidence, but the implications of the Jaba Fofi reach far beyond cryptozoology. If this species exists, it is a keystone predator. Its venom, capable of paralyzing vertebrates instantly, could hold biochemical secrets revolutionizing neuropharmacology. Its silk could change material science, but its very existence forces us to question what else is out there. The Congo rainforest is under siege. Deforestation and illegal logging are eating away at the edges of this ancient world. The Jaba Fofi requires vast, undisturbed territory to survive. By the time science fully accepts its existence, it may already be gone. The indigenous stories of the Guardian may have had a practical evolutionary purpose. By instilling fear and respect, the legend kept humans out of the spider's domain, preserving a fragile truce between man and monster. Thomas and Kosi left the forest, leaving the webs undisturbed. They realized that some mysteries are not meant to be captured in a cage, but respected from afar. The Jaba Fofi remains an enigma, a relic of a time when the world was wilder, and humans were not the only masters of their domain. It waits in the emerald shadows, patient and silent, a reminder that on the map of our world, there are still blank spaces labeled, "Here there be monsters." The question haunts every step taken through that undergrowth. If a spider of this magnitude can remain hidden in the 21st century, what other giants lie sleeping beneath the canopy? How would you feel coming across something this size? Should we continue to search or leave the Guardian in peace? Let us know in the comments below.